From now until the end of April, you can save $100 on Warthog controllers when you buy a turnkey electric system from HighGravityBrew.com. Take the pain out of propane for $100 less until the end of the month. You can configure your system with Blickman or Spike vessels and get your dream setup at big savings. This discount can't be combined with other discounts or offers, but it will be applied automatically at checkout. Save $100 on a Warthog controller when you pick up a new turnkey system until the end of April at HighGravityBrew.com. That's HighGravityBrew.com. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, April 27th, 2023. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Matt Giovanisci of Brew Cabin joins me to taste his dark mild that we formulated on this show, and to help me formulate a recipe for a trans-continental golden ale. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. Supporters have already seen the episode that I'm planning to post this Friday. I'm calling this video episode, What the Hellas? It's about the beer. So good I had to brew it twice. You've heard me talk about it several times on this show. I brewed the Hellas Bock or Maibock recipe that Chris Colby and I came up with on this show, and it turned out too dark because of a mistaken ingredient. I brewed it again with the proper ingredients, and Steve and I got to taste them side by side on the show. What will replacing 4 pounds of Vienna malt with the same amount of 20 Lovibond caramel Vienna do? Well, financial supporters already know because they've seen an early release along with the behind-the-scenes video and a recipe for the beer. Steve and I will be heading to Chicago in a couple of weeks to meet up with Ken Kazmersky and Greg McGill to taste Ken's hot dog beer, and we plan to hang out at Metropolitan Brewing in Chicago to taste some delicious lager beers that they brew. And that's not all. We're planning to go to the Ballpark Beer Fest on May 13th. That's a Saturday, to sample lots of breweries from around the area. Again, this trip is thanks to you, our financial supporters, and our sponsors who make the trips like that and the upcoming trip to San Diego in June for HomebrewCon possible. Speaking of sponsors, I've already brewed the beer that Matt and I formulate in this episode that you're listening to right now. It's bubbling away happily in a plastic bucket. I, of course, used Imperial yeast. I'm not going to tell you which strain I used. I don't want to, do a spoiler for the interview. This is a moderate gravity beer. The current seasonal yeast from Imperial is L09 Que Bueno, which I used to make the box. In this week's video episode, I did make starters for those because they're lagers, and I wanted them to ferment very cleanly. And boy, did they ferment cleanly. The Que Bueno made short work of those 1070 lagers with that 2-liter starter. But with this golden ale, it's a moderate gravity ale. So I just pitched those 200 billion cells from that Imperial packet with no starter, and there was movement in the airlock before bedtime. I didn't even have to dust off my stir plate. Hopefully I won't be doing that in a while. I'm always happy with Imperial yeast, and I know if I ever do have an issue or question, their top-notch technical support is available to answer my questions. Ask your local homebrew shop about the seasonal L09 Que Bueno and the yeast to be named later in this episode. And check them out at imperialyeast.com. It's imperialyeast.com. Okay, the beer Matt and I are formulating in this episode was inspired by a listener suggestion. It started out as a British golden ale, but through our conversation, Matt and I morphed it into something more intercontinental. Matt Giovanisci, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited because we're going to taste more beers.
Yeah.
And your doorbell may ring at some point because I've sent you beers, but we're not. That's for a side thing. That's just for you.
That's just for fun. Fun.
I sent you the dark version of the Bock and the lighter version of the Bock.
Nice.
And Chris and I are going to actually taste those and talk about them on the show when we develop our next recipe. But you've sent me beers
Mm-hmm.
What did you send? What do we got?
All right. So I sent you a dark mild that we did on the show about a month ago, I think it was.
Something like that.
Something like that. So we did a dark mild recipe, which what I did was the recipe itself, as I pull it up here, contains some victory malt, some flaked oats, Crystal 90, but the homebrew store didn't have Crystal 90, so I went with Crystal 75 as my next best thing. We got Maris Otter as the base, a little bit of black malt, and EKG for the hopping, and Imperial Pub A09. So that is what I did with that. I fermented it normally, and everything went well. And then I bottled it, added some carbonation drops, and waited about 2 more weeks, and then shipped you 3 bottles of that. And I warned you because I packaged 6 bottles myself. I did a 6-pack right out of the fermenter, then did the carbonation drops, and then kept them warm-ish for at about 70 degrees for 2 weeks. And then I took the rest of that in the fermenter and I put it into a cask, or what's called a pin, which is about 5.4 gallons, holds about 5.4 gallons of beer. And so when I shipped you the bottles, I decided to open a warm one that I had, and it just gushed everywhere. And I was like, uh-oh. And I had just sent it out to you, and it was going to be like a couple of 80-degree days, and I'm like, I hope it's okay. And so after I chilled it down, I opened up another one, and it was fine. But okay. I will say I just opened up one, the last one that I had. So we're drinking the same 6-pack. It's lively, even cold. It's even cold. So just a warning. It wasn't like gushing out of the bottle, but it kept rising, so I had to pour a little bit off so it would stop, rising. But
I'll open it over the sink here in the studio.
that would be a good idea.
And then we got another variation that we could taste as well.
Yeah, I brewed another one like back to back right after that one. That one, I was doing it mostly for a video. So the recipe is fairly different because of what I had on hand, or what my homebrew supply store had. So I had on hand, instead of Crystal 75, I had Crystal 60. So I just replaced that, and instead of Pub A09, I got Fermentis SO4.
Oh, interesting.
So that's the only difference. Everything else is exactly the same. So just a little bit lighter in a crystal malt. I don't know if there's going to be a huge difference, but the other big difference is this one I just put right into a keg, force carbonated it, canned it, and sent that to you as well. Sent you 3 cans. So you have a bottle conditioned version of Dark Mild 1 and a canned force carbonated version of Dark Mild 2.
And I noticed today, on the day we're recording, you posted a video of the process of your cask ale version on Instagram. Right. And there's a big full production thing coming for YouTube later on down the line. But
yes,
so you can see, kind of a snippet of the process, and you did make a keg. Now is this a firkin? Would we call this a firkin? So you did the firkin, and you were debating last time on whether you wanted to put a breather on it, a CO2 breather on it.
And I did.
And you did. But did you drink it all in one day?
I did. I invited just anyone. Well, so I was this is the first time I've ever done this, and I vented the keg the night before, and pressure came out, which I was very happy about. Of the cask, yep. And I believe, and I could be completely wrong about this, a firkin is a slightly bigger version. What I have is called a pin.
Okay.
Which is a 5-gallon version. I think a firkin's like a 10-gallon version, whatever. And I could be wrong about that too. And then there's like a hogshead, which is even bigger, and blah, blah, blah. So I vented it with a soft spile the night before. It vented, which I was happy about, meaning it did cask condition, carbonate. But that venting, that spritzing only lasted maybe about 5 minutes, and then it was like done. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, and then I talked to a friend who taps Firkins all the time, and he was like, yeah, you did it right. I was like, okay, great. But the next day, I tried to chill it down to 50 degrees. I could probably only get it to 55 degrees on the day. Hooked it up to a beer engine, tapped the front of it, where the keystone is.
Mm-hmm.
Turned it on. Everything worked great. Put a sparkler on it because it was very, very, very lowly carbonated. I would say almost still.
Mm.
And I believe that is because I was very nervous about over-carbonating it, which I probably shouldn't have been because it's a giant metal, cask and I'm venting it, the day before, so you're losing that CO2. But I used malt, Pilsner malt extract, dry malt extract to prime as my priming sugar. Yeah. I think I should have went with just table sugar, a little bit more predictable, and I don't think I added enough because I actually put the priming calculator. I was going for a low volume of CO2, and I'm like, I should have went for a normal volume because I'm venting it, so I would have been releasing all that CO2 anyway. And yeah, so next time I want to do it again. This time doing regular table sugar or dextrose or something, and do maybe a longer condition. So I did it for 2 weeks. But it was in my brewery on the floor, and my brewery has a garage door, and it was cold, but I do have it at set at 70 degrees in there. But because it's on the floor, it's colder on the floor. I don't know. Could have been a little bit warmer. I don't know. So overall, though, beer came out great. Drank the whole thing.
What was the feedback? People liked it?
Feedback was people liked it. That was it.
And it was free.
I don't think I got, and it was free, and it was pouring all day, and the garage door was open. It happened to be a nice day, so it went.
That's awesome.
I was pretty happy about that.
So we've got some emails. I can't decide whether should we try the beer first or should we read the emails first.
Well, I think we should try it first, and then hear the feedback, because the feedback is from just the recipe, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to walk over. I'm going to step away from the mic. If you hear an explosion in the background, you'll know.
It should be okay.
I'm at the sink. But that was a normal hiss.
Yep, normal. Yeah, normal hiss. But then it kept bubbling. So there could have been something else going on.
No, it looks normal to me. I'm actually pouring kind of aggressively at the end of this.
Okay, good.
But that's beautiful. No, it looks like a beer. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's a nice dark color. Smells a little fruity.
Do you get any of that the soft pretzel vibes I was speaking of last time?
A little,
yeah. That's what a little bit.
It's soft on the palate.
Yep.
The level of bitterness is nice.
Yep.
Because it doesn't linger.
No. It's pretty clean. That's at EKG. Only 1.5 ounces at, I believe, I probably first wort hopped it. I usually do, but maybe I didn't. I don't know. I don't remember.
That's good. That's really good. Boy, that is an extremely quaffable beverage.
Yeah, you can tell why it went in a day.
There's a teeny bit of lingering residual sweetness, which is fine. I think that's just fine.
Yeah, probably from the crystal.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I'm tasting the roastiness of the malts. There's a breadiness. There's a darker roastiness. Probably as it warms up, it's going to be. It tastes a teeny bit molassesy, maybe.
Yep,
that's good.
The when I was drinking the kegged version, I was like, I had texted a friend and said, this might be quickly becoming one of my top 10 favorite styles.
Yeah,
which I would never. I mean, I don't like. They were hard to come by before this. And now there's 2 companies near me that make them. I like both of them. And so it's it's kind of brown ale-ish to me, but not really.
It's not as roasty as what I would think a brown ale would be.
No.
It's just nice and it's mild.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now what you can sip while I read these emails.
Yeah.
Dusty up in Christopher Lake, Saskatchewan, Canada, I'm sure he has no problem. Dusty has no problem chilling wort up there.
No.
He says, hello from the Great White North. Longtime listener, first-time writer. Thanks, Dusty. Thank you for doing a dark mild in your recipe development series. It's a style much overlooked and not well represented by many brewers. Mm-hmm. By chance, I had just put together a dark mild recipe of my own 1 week before your episode. And I was delighted to hear you and Matt having the same debate about ingredients as I did with myself in developing this brew. I went with a 2.4 kilograms of English malt, a local Canadian variation on Maris Otter, from Maker's Malt in Rostern, Saskatchewan, 1 kilogram of biscuit malt, 0.25 kilograms of Crystal 60, and 35 grams, just over an ounce for those who speak old-timey measurements, of Carafa Special 3 to darken the color. Interesting.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
I used East Kent Goldings as well, an Imperial Pub for the yeast. Excellent. It delighted me that you came up with a similar recipe, and I'm really looking forward to how it tastes. I'm expecting something along the lines of delicious, quote-unquote. I guess delicious is we use it quite a bit. Delicious and drinkable. Please keep up the recipe development series. It's a joy to hear you go over different styles with other respected home brewers. That's to you and Chris.
Oh.
Yeah. And definitely helps inspire us listeners in making our next brew. Excellent. Thanks, Dusty. And P.S., Dusty says, please include some wearable swag in your online shop. So we need to look at it. You've given me some suggestions on some trails I can head down.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've had, shirts and caps and stuff in the store, but I will definitely follow up on that. Thanks, Dusty. Nathan writes in, longtime listener, first-time caller or emailer. I'm currently listening to your Mild with Matt episode. My ears picked up when Matt mentioned Denver's Hogsheads Brewery. Awesome place. They sure know what they're doing over there. I'm a Colorado native that lives in Utah now. We stopped there for some pints before a U2 show a few years back. Everything was great. Their old ale was the fruitiest dark fruit concoction I've ever tasted, smiley face. My whole reason for my email is this, and I know you and Steve will appreciate this. When I was there, you could order a beer called The Mother-in-Law. It was a pour of 2 of their beers. Which 2 do you ask? Old and bitter. Now, I have to say, I was very fortunate in the mother-in-law that I wound up with. She was elderly but sarcastic, which is not the same as bitter.
No.
She and I got along pretty well. I think Nathan says, I think I might brew a mild next as well. Happy brewing to all. Thanks for bringing us such great content and helping hone in our brewing skills. Love the show. Always makes my day. Take care. Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah.
And then we have sort of a celebrity writing in. This Chris Hamilton, Dr. Chris Hamilton, who we know from the episode that we recorded at a HomebrewCon somewhere, I can't remember where he shared his experiment using enzymes to reduce gluten in beers. And so, if you hear home brewers using Clarity Firm and other brewers like Ivory Bill and High Gravity, they use another kind of professional scale enzyme to reduce gluten in beers to imperceptible levels, basically. That came from Chris's research. Anyway, Chris says he wrote a big, long letter. I'm just going to excerpt. In addition to your show, I'm a fan of Ron Pattinson, and he's done a lot of homebrew recreations of dark milds. Dark milds grew of regular milds in the later 19th century. One key thing about the beers when they got dark is that this was rarely due to dark malts. Through World War I and shortages let some crazy things happen. For the most part, though World War I and shortages let some crazy things happen, for the most part, the color came from 2 places, darker invert sugar syrups and caramel coloring. They call it caramel, but it looks almost black. Talking about the pretzel flavor in one beer made me think that these might help bring out that flavor.
Oh, interesting.
And he said some recipes, especially in older 19th century, Ones do use brown malt, but you won't find any black malt, chocolate malt, or roasted barley, except maybe during the World War II/World War II period when they used whatever they could.
Mm-hmm.
So after Chris wrote that email, it reminded me that on Basic Brewing Video, I did brew a mild after a conversation with Peter Simons, historical author of beer styles, where he talked about, using darker sugars and things, or invert sugars in beers. And I used some dark Karo syrup.
Right.
In a mild, in a dark mild. And, thinking about that now, maybe it's just my imagination, but I think this beer tastes similar to that one. It reminds me of that beer in a way. So, I don't know how much you were concerned about like historical accuracy, or, if you were just inspired by the thought of it and trying to
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Chris's thoughts?
Definitely wasn't going for a historical take. If I had been, I definitely would have been on Shut Up About Barclay Perkins for sure. But I was going for a modern. Well, I was going for the beers that I just had, which were, I guess, modern versions of that. And I don't know if Hogshead used inverted sugar or not. I'm not sure. I don't know if the other one, Westbound and Down, used it. I doubt it. Although I could be wrong. I don't know. I would actually be, the pretzel thing. So I believe when you make bagels, you use like a malt syrup or some kind of like there's some kind of thing you add to the water to kind of like darken it a little bit.
Well, I know they boil them. They like parboil them.
Yeah.
Before they bake them, right?
And they put something in the water that's like I think it's a malt syrup. So I think it's like liquid malt extract essentially. And it gives it this sort of color. I'm wondering if it would have that same effect where and maybe you could replace something in our recipe, if they didn't use dark malts. The only dark malts that we used technically is the black malt, right? I don't know if Victory malt or caramel malts would be considered like in that same category back then, but I'm assuming not.
Yeah, especially like a 60 is not that dark, or a 75 even.
Yeah, and we only used 8 ounces of black malt, and I think, we probably could have not used it. I think I just wanted that extra color and extra roastiness, but we probably could have omitted it, and it would have been, not truer to style, but I guess, or I guess historic style. But like the inverted sugar thing is interesting, and I can see why that would make what a good mild, or at least an I guess a pre-prohibition mild, if you could call it that. I'd be curious to try a classic version of it. That would be really, really fun. I think that would be really, really fun. Put that on cask.
Yeah. You might have heard I was trying to be sneaky.
I heard it.
Opening the can.
I haven't even had the canned version yet.
Oh, and this is with the lighter colored.
Yeah, so I think
it looks darker to me.
Yeah, you know what it absolutely does. I think I did some, because I was doing a video and I wasn't, this beer was like not for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it for a video. I probably threw in some like de-bittered dark malt that I had lying around.
Ooh.
Because I was like, let's get a little darker, but without adding, to the roastiness of it.
It's interesting. It's the carbonation level is not as high as the first one, so it's not as sharp.
Yeah.
So it's a teeny bit sweeter.
Oh, you think it's sweeter?
I think just because it doesn't have that sharpness from the bubbles,
the carbonic bite.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's milder.
Yeah.
And I know it's like we're talking about a dark mild, but it doesn't have the, I don't know, the more like caramelly breadiness of the first one. It's a
little, in the wine world, they say something is flabby. When it's just not.
Yeah.
It's just kind of. It doesn't have as much life. It's a little more unbalanced than the first one for some reason.
I agree.
I like the first one. I think you nailed it with the first one. The second one, maybe if I was like sipping it on its own, maybe I would like it more. But
when you're not comparing it,
right?
Yeah.
But side by side with that first one, I like the first one better.
I agree. I must have done some trickery or because the second one or the can one is darker. And obviously, I used Crystal 60 instead of Crystal 75. Maybe I added more black malt or something. Just because I was trying to get rid of. I had it left over from the first batch. Maybe I was, just throw the rest in. It's just we're just doing it for a video. Who, it'll get drank.
I mean, they're both good. I like the first one better. The first one is more interesting and has a more, I think it has more interesting yeast character too.
Oh, that's true too. Because the other one I just used the dry yeast,
and not just because Imperial's a sponsor, but
no.
But the second one is just kind of flatter all around as far as flavor profile, as far as carbonation level.
I also think it's more bitter.
It's just I don't know.
For the first one, I used pub, and I made a starter. This one, I just dumped the dry yeast directly in the fermenter. I didn't rehydrate it. I just kind of sprinkled it on top and let it go. I mean, not that I don't think there's any fermentation issues.
No, they're both cleanly fermented. So should we talk about the next beer?
Sure.
Well, we had listener suggestions. Or I solicited listener suggestions for styles.
Oh, you did?
For styles that people wanted to, what do you want to hear us talk about?
Yeah.
And so Steve in Roswell, Georgia, he wrote, first of all, to say, I think I've heard you mention a couple of times if you've had issues bottling from the keg. I use a tap cooler, which I reckon is the best piece of brew hardware I own. So,
wow. Yeah.
So is that what you use?
I used it when I bottled the beers for the competition. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But he says, how about a British golden ale for your next recipe? So there you go. So it's my turn.
Okay.
This time, right?
Yeah.
So I printed out the BJCP description or the guidelines. 12A British golden ale. Overall impression, a hop-forward average strength to moderately strong, pale bitter. Drinkability and a refreshing quality are critical components of the style. Straw to golden in color, good to brilliant clarity, low to moderate white head. A low head is acceptable when carbonation is also low. Hop aroma is, this is the whole scale. Hop aroma is moderately low to moderately high.
Wow.
And can use any variety of hops, floral, herbal, or earthy English hops, and citrusy American hops are most common. Frequently, a single hop varietal will be showcased. Little or no malt aroma, no caramel, medium low to low fruity aroma from the hops rather than the esters. Little to no diacetyl. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Basically, well-hopped, quenching beer with an emphasis on showcasing hops.
Yeah.
This style was originally positioned as a refreshing summer beer, but is now brewed year-round.
Yep.
Although early on the beers were brewed with English hops, increasingly American citrus-flavored hops are used. Golden ales are also called golden bitters. Summer ales are British blonde ales. On ingredients, it says low-color pale ale or lager malt acting as a blank canvas for the hop character. May use sugar adjuncts, corn or wheat. English hops frequently used, although citrusy American varietals are becoming more common. Somewhat clean fermenting British yeast. More similar to the American pale ale than anything else, although it's often lower in alcohol and usually features British ingredients.
Yeah, this one was a tough one. As far as I know, there's no examples do you know of any examples that you've had commercially?
No. The commercial examples that are listed are Crouch Vale Brewers Gold, Fuller's Discovery, Golden Hill Exmoor Gold,
Yeah.
Hopback Summer Lightning, Kellam Island Pale Rider, Moreland Old, Golden Hen, and Oakham JHB. So we mentioned Peter Simons earlier.
Ooh.
In the show.
I just had an
epiphany?
No, well, so because they're called summer ales, right, in the UK, I thought there was a beer that I loved when I lived back in, Philadelphia area. And Victory made a beer called Summer Love, and I'm like, I wonder. So they describe it as a golden ale.
Oh, well.
And I just looked it up, and I was like, oh, golden ale. That's it. Maybe that's because what's the difference between that and a blonde ale?
Well, ingredients maybe? I mean,
yeah, that's what
Victory,
it sounds like.
Victory obviously is an American brewery. We went through there.
Yep.
We had a brewery tour back when we were in Philadelphia. So anyway, I was looking in Peter Simons' book, 6 O'Clock Brews.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are about historic Australian beers. From 1975, Cooper's Sparkling Ale.
Well, there is a style, right? There's the Australian Sparkling Ale.
Right. But look at the the anticipated original gravity is 1051. Anticipated final gravity is 1009 for an ABV of about 5.5 to 5.8%. According to Peter, the ingredients in the grain bill are 87.1% Maris Otter, pale malt, 12.9% white cane sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Then for hops, 24 grams of Pride of Ringwood for an IBU of 27.2 IBUs. Then earlier, there's a 1953 example on page 279. That was on 281. This is 271 or 279. 1953 Cooper and Sons Limited Sparkling Ale. This weighs in at about the same gravities, but the IBUs were up to 48. The fermentables, 82.5% Maris Otter Pale Ale, 17.5% white cane sugar. So, so it's more cane sugar. And then they add hops at East Kent Goldings at 3 different times in the boil, 70 minutes, 40 minutes, and 15 minutes for an anticipated IBU of 48. So it's interesting. They came down from 1953. They came down, or it says Cooper and Sons Limited, and then it was Cooper's Brewery. So I'm assuming it was the same, similar brewery, if not the same brewery. Anyway,
yeah,
I'm going to use these two recipes as kind of a jumping off point.
Interesting. So,
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research, and now that I'm looking at this Summer Love beer, they actually give I'll say the recipe, but just what's in it. Pilsner and Carapils, and then for hops, Tetning and Simcoe. And it's 5.2% alcohol. They just call it a golden ale, and I'm assuming when they do that, it's a British golden ale, because I don't believe there's a golden ale category. Just general golden ale, and it's not a blonde ale, and it's not an Australian sparkling ale. What I in my research, it's essentially an American pale ale, but the British version. And from what I've seen, like in all the recipes that I looked at, the malt bill seems to be pretty simple. And then it's really just the hop, how you decide to do the hops, and it's supposed to be kind of hoppy, and you can use modern, even like juicy American hops, in for a lot of aroma. So it's very, to me, it sounds like a session APA. That's kind of where I landed.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, because 5% or lower. It's not. I think the one that you said that uses the sugar, right? That was like upward, like the style guidelines for that, I think were the alcohol was just a touch higher.
Well, the 1975 Cooper Sparkling Ale was 5.5 to 5.8% ABV.
Yeah, so in the BJCP for the British Golden Ale, it's between 3.8 and 5%. So 5% being the max.
Mm.
So that's why I'm saying session.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
I don't know. This style is confusing to me because I'm like, why do we need this? But the way that I interpreted it, or I was trying to like build a story, like to come to the recipe development with, and I kind of wanted like I don't know, in my brain I came up with pond hopper. And the idea being that like it's a mix of American and English, like ingredients to create sort of a hybrid, not an APA, or like what an EPA would be, like an English pale ale, American pale ale, but not I guess because there are English pale ales, it's
right?
Not as like caramely as that. It leans more towards American. So I kind of went with like the idea being that like the backbone of the beer would be your English. It would like be rooted in English tradition,
right?
And then it would have this like sparkle of like new American, interestingness at the top. That's where my head's going.
Okay, I like that.
So that's where I kind of landed with it.
So here's my thoughts. I thought, I don't know why I have such a fetish for Maris Otter, but Maris Otter pale malt.
We've used it in a lot of recipes recently, yeah. If not all of them, yeah.
But I was thinking, and I kind of like the idea of using some table sugar, just, as a salute, if nothing else, a salute to Peter Simons and his work. Just white cane sugar. I don't want to use it so much that it's like cidery or champagne-y.
Yep.
I don't want it to be so dry that it's like a brute. Remember
those?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I want to put some glitter in it.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? So maybe just like
a touch, a little bit.
Just a touch. Just
yeah.
Just
I'm here. I'm with you.
Just to lighten it up a little bit.
Yep.
Make it real crisp.
Okay.
Without making it, like I say, cidery.
Yeah.
So why don't we start? You got your.
Yep. I'm all set. Yeah, I'm all set.
So let's start with Maris Otter.
Absolutely. So this is where every recipe that I saw had Maris Otter in it, or Golden Promise, but mostly Maris Otter. And from what I read, you don't want to do 100% Maris Otter because it would be it would bring out too much malt character, and the malt character should be subdued and the hop should be present.
Right.
So this is where, like, when I was reading a lot of these and researching this, I had my New England IPA hat on the whole time because I'm like, well, it kind of sounds like that a little bit. There's some parts of that where it's like I would, like when I make a New England, I would never put Maris Otter in it because I want the malt to take a backseat.
Right.
In this particular case, I think we have to use it because we're talking about it's British.
Right.
So I'm gonna put in just 5 pounds for now.
Oh.
Every recipe that I've seen splits, basically like dilutes the Maris Otter with 2-row or Pilsner.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
Mostly I've seen 2-row because it's very neutral. Pilsner might be a little bit too light.
Yeah,
and have a lot of character to it.
My knee-jerk reaction was to follow strictly Peter's recipe and go just for Maris Otter and sugar. But this is a collaboration, so can we compromise on maybe like 60% Maris Otter?
Oh, I think it should be mostly Maris. I think it should go either like 60-40 or 70-30.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's do 70 as far as the grain. Let's do 70% Maris Otter and then 30%. Let's just do Pilsner since that's the lightest.
You want to do Pilsner instead of two-row?
I think so.
Okay.
Or no, wait, your pond hopping thing though. Let's do American two-row. So that'd be Breeze's pale brewer's malt, I think they call it.
Okay. Now,
and maybe like half a pound of sugar.
So we're just going to do table sugar, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do half a pound because we don't want too much. Now, okay. Just what I kind of just threw in stuff. I got 5, and this is on your system, by the way, which is a 6-gallon batch, 60-minute boil time, at a mash efficiency at 70%, brew house efficiency at about 67%, pre-boil volume at 7.5 gallons, just to kind of give everybody an overview. I have 5 pounds of Maris Otter, 3 pounds of two-row, 8 ounces or half a pound of table sugar. That brings us to 3.9%. Now, I'm probably just going to up the Maris Otter to 6 pounds, which should give us more of we're getting closer to 70-40. I'm going to go 1 more pound at 7 pounds. So now, all right, here we are. We are at 4.9%. We are 7 pounds of Maris Otter, 3 pounds of two-row, which gives us about 66% Maris Otter, 28% two-row, about 5% sugar.
Okay.
Feels good. And then it's at 4.9%. So you're still under the 5%, but you're definitely creeping towards the top of this. It's not, we're getting close to it not being sessionable. If you had a really good mash, you might be crossing over that, or a really good attenuation on your yeast. So I'd probably come down. I like this 6 pounds of Maris Otter and 3 pounds of two-row, half a pound. That gives us 4.3% ABV, and you're at 60-35.
Okay.
Percentages why.
Okay.
Now just because we're just thinking about alcohol here at this point, I'm doing a sack rest, 60 minutes, 150. I think that's fine, right?
Yeah, I'll probably do 90 minutes, but
you want to do 90
at 150? That's just what I just have settled on to. Because I always say 60 minutes, and then I start reading the refractometer. When you're getting close to an hour, it's like, well, it's still creeping up a little bit. It's still creeping up a little bit. It's still. I get greedy, so it's probably going to be 90.
Okay. Hops.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, too, I just want to mention this because I saw it so much that I'm like, what? Why? A lot of recipes had white wheat malt in it. Like a small amount. But I just thought that, are we just putting wheat in everything?
What are you, Matt Giovanisci?
I know. Just throw some wheat in it.
Everybody's got a giant bag of wheat in their house.
That he can't get rid of. I've been making Hefeweizens for days.
I don't know. I'm happy with that malt bill. I think that's fine. The fermentables are fine.
Yep, I agree. And as far as SRM, we're at 2.9, so we're definitely light.
Now I don't know that I can't remember. I need to look back in our hop sampler series and see if we used Target. But Target is a British hop that is described as spicy, floral, sage, and citrus.
Mm-hmm. So I've heard Target being used. I've seen First Gold being used. Obviously, EKG, East Kent Goldings, Tetning.
I'd kind of like to feature Target.
I'll ask this: can you get it?
It's on the highgravitybrew.com website. So
then there you go. All right, Target. Do you want to do the Walmart hop as well, or
the Walmart hop? What is that?
I don't know. The opposite of Target hop.
Wah, wah.
There you go. All right.
You have to explain things to me.
So if we were to do, so I think we should. So we're talking about Target for bittering, right?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it for flavoring, and maybe, but you want it. But so far, everything. Well, no, we got American two-row and we got Maris Otter. So how do we get the American influence of the hops in there? Should we bitter with something just, sort of, I don't want to call any hop nondescript, but some sort of, like we don't want to go check sods, which is my usual go-to for the bittering hop, but just a moderate alpha acid hop for the bittering at 60 minutes, and then do a blend of like Target and
let's do this.
Okay.
My thought is, can you look up what descriptors Target has?
I wrote them down. Spicy, floral, sage, and citrus.
Any specific kind of citrus or no?
No, not on the. That's from.
All right. And what's the alpha acid on it? Does it say? Mine says 11.
Oh, well, on High Gravity's website, it was like 9.8 or something like that.
So it's not low.
No,
by any means.
no, it's fairly high. So I would use something, around 5% alpha acid as the bittering.
Something lower.
Yeah.
So why not? What about again, looking at Fuggle or EKG? Yeah. We even use Fuggle.
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right.
So let's have put an ounce or two of Fuggle, depending on the alpha acid, an ounce or two of Fuggle at the beginning of the boil to lay down a solid level of bitterness, base bitterness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put an ounce at 4.5% alpha acid, 60 minutes. That gives us about 16 IBUs.
Okay.
So we got room to play.
Yeah. And then I'd say we just do maybe should we do a hop stand? Like maybe chill the wort to 180? After the end of the boil, or is that too East Coasty feeling?
No, from what I was...
Or New England.
The impression I got was that it kind of was leaning towards that, it seems like a modern style, even though you read two recipes that are not modern.
Right.
I think I heard this in a video that I watched or something about it, where it is a fairly new addition to the BJCP guidelines. I think it's a 2015 edition. And then when I watched some British people brewing it, it was definitely like, hey, we're making this because of the demand of American, style of beers here in the UK.
Huh.
So I got a lot of Americanized APA vibes using traditional English base. So again, I think
But the BJCP under history says modern golden ales were developed in England to take on strongly marketed lagers. While it's difficult to identify the first, Hopback's Summer Lightning, first brewed in 1986, is thought by many to have gotten the style off the ground. So I guess again, it depends on where in history you want to put that peg.
Right.
And what you want to, and again, styles are just reference points for inspiration, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really liked. So when I, again, the summer ale thing, it pointed me right to Summer Love from Victory, and I went, I love that beer. That beer has Simcoe in it, which is an American hop. I was trying to, as I was thinking about this before jumping on the podcast, trying to think of a little bit more, I don't want to use the word story, but I'm going to use it, story, where I was trying to think of what's a British food or sense, and I've never been to England, so, forgive me. But I'm I kept thinking orange marmalade.
Ooh.
And so I was so Amarillo kept coming to mind because of orange. That always comes to mind. Whereas Simcoe, I always kind of just think of it. I always think of the Pacific Northwest pine, and more of that citrus character as opposed to orange. Well, I guess orange is a citrus, but I mean grapefruit. In my head, I'm I guess Amarillo.
Yeah, I haven't used Amarillo in a long time.
I thought we just used it. That's why I thought we just put it in something. Or
was it the amber ale?
No, we did a Cascade and Centennial for that. What was it? Maybe I don't know. Maybe maybe it was a dream.
I should keep better notes.
I was trying to build. Again, I'm trying to think of it from a like. I've never had the style unless Summer Love is the style. Then I have had it many, many, many times. But other than that, I've never had a classic British version of it. So I have nothing to kind of go on besides just the geography, and the story of, the idea that like the Brits and us meld together and create this beautiful baby of citrus and, whatever. So I like the idea of Target because it does have citrus in it.
Why don't we just do we do a base bitterness of the Fuggles, and then at the end of the boil, we toss in X amount of Target and X amount of Amarillo. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be great.
I think Target's a good move. All right, let's do that. You just want to? I think we should just do it at flame out. I don't even know if we have to go full on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because the water's still cool around here. It's going to cool down pretty quickly.
All right, so we're going to do Target at flame out, and we're going to
like an ounce of each. Because I don't want this to be like a super, New England IPA juicy hop bomb.
No,
Although I'd love those.
Yeah. So here's the issue we're going to run into is IBUs, because obviously we only got 1 ounce of Fuggle, which only gives us 16 IBUs. It's supposed to be a hoppy style. I put 1 ounce of Target at flame out, which gives us no IBUs. But
allegedly, but
it does.
There's going to be some. I mean, we could do 2 ounces of Fuggle at the beginning of the boil.
Yeah.
If we want to add more bite.
I don't want to mess with it. I want to keep Fuggle at right where it is.
Okay.
Because you're going to get bitterness from that flame out edition. Do you want to whirlpool it for any amount of time, or just flame out and then?
Well, it's going
to be there for a minute.
Yeah, it's going to be there for. It's going to take probably maybe 5 minutes. To get below the, where you're isomerizing alpha acids, probably.
Yep.
So I think it'll be fine.
Okay. And then the biggest question is, this beer is dry hopped, apparently. Do you want to dry hop?
Maybe dry hop with an ounce of each as well?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Well, that takes care of the recipe itself, except the yeast and the water profile. So for yeast, every single recipe I've seen, and I'm curious, do they say what yeast for those 2 recipes that you have?
White Labs WLP 009 Australian Ale, or WLP 023 Burton Ale yeast.
Whoa.
Interesting.
So every recipe that I've seen has used London Ale 3.
My 2 candidates are A01 House or A09 Pub. House is described as the best of both worlds. House is clean and allows malt and hops to shine. This strain is extremely versatile and flocculent enough to drop out of the beer quickly. Best strain choice for any and all English-inspired recipes, however, does extremely well in hopped-up American styles, too. And then
Let's
Pub,
do that. I mean, that makes sense.
And then Pub is brewers swear by this strain to achieve super bright ales in a short amount of time. One of the most flocculent brewers strains around, Pub will rip through fermentation and then drop out of the beer quickly. It produces higher levels of esters than most domestic ale strains, making it an excellent choice for when balance between malt and yeast-derived esters is necessary. It sounds like House is the way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So London Ale, which is WLP 013, House is the substitution.
Oh, well, there you go.
And I guess with water profile, we should just keep it simple, huh?
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything.
Yay!
keep it normal. All right. Yeah. So we have a So let's just go over it, I guess, right?
Yes.
So we have our grain bill is going to be 6 pounds of Maris Otter at 63%, 3 pounds of pale malt 2-row from RAR. That's about 31%, and about exactly a half pound of table sugar at about 5%.
I'll probably be using Breeze 2-row, but
you'll be okay.
I don't know. It probably didn't change anything.
No, I just have it as RAR. It doesn't matter. Then for hops, we have 5 ounces total, which is 1 ounce of Fuggle at 60 minutes, which is going to give us, the baseline bitterness. Then we have an ounce of Amarillo and an ounce of Target at flame out. And then we're going to do a couple days of dry hopping, 1 ounce of Amarillo, 1 ounce of Target. Then it's a good mix of American and UK hops. And that's going to give us an ABV of 4.2%, an OG of 1041, an FG, if all goes well, 1009. So it will be drier. An SRM of 2.9, although I wish I knew the EBC number for this particular one. Says our IBUs are at 16, but of course we know dry hopping and flame out additions are going to add some bitterness. So we have between 20 and 45 IBUs to work with. So I think we'll get somewhere maybe in the 25. We'll be on the lower end, I think.
It'll be fine. It'll be a nice sessionable summer beer, and my guests, for summer cookouts and stuff would probably it'd be a good quaffable or drinkable beer. I don't think it's going to be sweet.
No,
because it's going to be dry.
Yes. That sugar is going to help.
Right. So I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. We're going to do a stack rest at 150 for 90 minutes. That's about it. Do you ever do a mash out? Do you do a mash out?
I can, but I don't.
No, I just have it in there. It's the normal thing. And then fermentation wise, you're just going to ferment it in a carboy.
Or probably a plastic bucket, since I'm going to dry hop.
Oh, yeah.
So no starter.
Yep. Yeah, you probably don't need it. Not that low.
No.
4.2.
No. And ferment in a bucket, and then dry hop in the bucket and keg.
Okay.
And I think it'll be good.
There we go.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. All
right. Well, this has been fun. Again, these are delicious beers, and I'm very excited about brewing this next one. It's about getting to the point where I need to start bottling, because my production is overpowering my consumption.
Oh, yeah.
I need to have more gatherings.
It's a good problem to have.
I need to have more gatherings like you, so I can get...
you have to do it.
Just open the garage door and let the neighbors come and drink all the beer.
Yeah, we're having a wedding in September, and I'm brewing all of the beer for the wedding.
Wow. Which
is going to be probably like 10 or 11 different beers.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm going nuts. I mean, obviously, it's not going to all get consumed, but who knows?
Yeah.
Might bottle some too, just to have some around.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a crazy summer.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm really pushing my brewing hobby this year. I really want to push myself to make a lot of different beers.
So if y'all have thoughts on, first of all, if you have thoughts on what we've put together, good or bad for this, be nice, but on this recipe, and if you have thoughts of what Matt should be brewing for his wedding, maybe that's what we'll talk about next time, as we're sampling the British Golden Ale.
Yeah,
awesome. All right, Matt. Everybody check out brewcabin.com and the Brew Cabin channel on YouTube. And also, if you have a swimming pool or a hot tub, check out Swim University, because you shouldn't be owning bodies of water without it.
No, and we're coming up on the season for it, so
that's right.
Here we are.
Get your chemicals in line.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again to Matt. Be sure to check out beercabin.com and the Beer Cabin YouTube channel, as well as Swim University.
There's a reason Matt's so good with beer water chemistry. He has a background with teaching people about taking care of the water chemistry for their pools and hot tubs and such. And no, his beers do not taste like a swimming pool. If I were in a swimming pool that tasted like a beer, there might be trouble.
Jeez, I gotta take a leak so bad I can taste it.
If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. That's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dotson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.